Evening, y'all. This is Dave with Liberty Guys. First thing I want to do is say I'm sorry for not shooting videos any more regularly than I have. I don't have a good reason. I've just got some cheap excuses, and I'm sure y'all ain't interested in hearing that. To get right on to things, I got two subjects today. One is the presidential election. Why do people get so excited about voting for president? We don't pick him. What's the reason to get excited about it? There's no reason. Your local elections, you pretty well have a little bit of input on that. It's not much, but it's a little bit. But president, not so much. The Electoral College picks him, so there's no point in wasting your energy trying to what's the word? Politic or campaign. That's the word. Campaign for your candidate of choice, because there's no reason in it. I mean, Mitt and Barack, they're two sides of the same coin. You flip the coin, it lands, it's still that coin, no matter which way it's turned. That's what you get. You know, you're not picking two different political views. They pretty much have the same philosophy. You know, they're both socialist. But I ain't gonna go on mindless rants on that. It just amazes me how people think that they actually have input on who gets picked as president. You know, if you think that your vote counts, post it down below. But unless you're an electoral college member, or whatever that is, you know, a delegate to the college, your vote don't count. Not for president. But you know, there's no good point. You know, we're worrying over it. You should be focusing your energy on making sure that you have enough preparation set aside to get you through a natural disaster, or, you know, times of economic, what's the word, downturn, or, you know, a depression. It's just to cut to the chase. If we go into depression, there's not going to be all of this money floating around, because credit expansion has generated an enormous amount of paper that has no value. And that paper is going to run out of value completely before long. And when the private sector kind of figures out that the dollar note is nothing more than a piece of material to start a good fire in your wood heater at night, they're pretty much going to quit accepting it. And you know, even though it says on there that the government has a law that says you have to accept it for all debts, you know, private and public or whatever, the foreign governments ain't going to accept it. They're not going to continue to buy this government debt from the U.S. when there's not going to be any returns on it. When you can't pay the interest on your note. Excuse me. There was a big electrical storm last night. It kept me up for a few hours in the middle of the night. But there's going to come a point, you know, when China, for instance, says, okay, we can buy some U.S. Treasury bonds, or we can go over here to Russia and we can buy some of their T-bills. The Russian T-bills, they'll pay 2%. The American T-bills, they're going to pay 1%. Let's go to Russia. You know, they're already working out trade agreements with Iran and all of those people to trade in gold and in wands and things like that, so that we lose our reserve currency status. That's the only thing holding our currency together is the reserve status. Once it goes, we'll go the way of Zimbabwe is what I'm expecting. You know, it'll take $30 million to buy a loaf of bread at the grocery store. You know, it's going to be crazy stuff. I've wandered off way into a tangent. So I'm going to get back on subject. If you think that you have a valid argument as for wasting your energy for campaigning for your presidential candidate, post it below. We'll chat about it. Next thing I want to talk about is I got another quandary for you. Why is it that the property owners of a county are penalized for owning property in that county by being forced to pay for the education of all of the children of that county? To break it down for you, the property owners have to pay the school tax. The school tax is what the school budget's based on, minus the state grant money that they get every year. Well, the state's running out of money because they're cutting their money back every year, less and less and less. And we had an article in the paper said they cut out like $1.7 million of the state grant money. So that means that they're going to have to make that up somehow in the county. So they're going up on the millage rate, like 1 mil. And that means they're going to force everybody in the county to pay so much more property tax to offset the money that the state's not giving them now. It ain't that they can cut back. They've cut like 17 jobs. And so there's 17 less people now to educate the kids in the 4 government indoctrination centers or schools. Yes, this county has 4 schools in it. 2 elementary, a middle school, and a high school. And those 4 schools take, I want to say it was well over $10 million a year to operate. It's an incredible amount of money. And what's amazing is they provide no school supplies. We have to go at the beginning of the year and buy a freaking big old mountain of stuff, a bunch of which is community property stuff for the classroom where our children go. And then just have to give it to them so they'll have something to instruct the kids with. And then they have to play by these jacked up rules about how they have to teach the kids certain things. What's it called? It has something to do with that No Child Left Behind bull crap. But it's amazing that A, 4 schools can require so much money to operate for 1 year, and B, that the property owners have to bear the entire burden, no matter how many children they have, no matter if they haven't got any children. If you rent in this county, you pay no property tax. You don't pay school tax. You can have 9 kids that go to school in this county and not have to pay a penny of the tax money required to educate them. That's right. There's no right in that crap. No. It's just, I don't get it. Yeah, so, what would be right would be they add up all of the kids in the county, all right, and they divide the budget by that number of kids. However many kids you have, it's times that number, and that's how much you owe. And if the county can't afford to pay all of the education costs based on that, then you got to scale something back. Because, you can't just keep stacking on the cost and stacking on the cost by giving free programs to this people and those people and these people and those people. Somebody's got to pay for them free programs eventually. You can try and borrow money or create fiat debt with it or whatever you want to do, but it's all going to come down around you eventually. And it's getting to the breaking point. People can't afford to pay these exorbitant amounts of money. It's a lot of money. But post a comment below if you can come up with a valid reason why the property owners should bear the burden for the entire population of the county's children and not the entire population of children in schools' parents. I'd like to hear the comment. I'd like to know how that's fair. Because just because you own property, it makes it like it's punishment for owning property. Every year you get this punishment fine. Since you own this many acres, we got to have this much money because you want to own these acres. That's screwed up. So, post it below. I'd like to hear what you got to say. But, I'm going to try my best to have some more content and to get some more videos, to get some more food for thought and get you thinking about things. And if I get one person to wake up, then all this I've done was worth it. That's the way I got to see it. I'm not doing this just because I like to, because I'm putting my face out there for the government. All they got to do is watch these videos and say that I don't like them. And if you're watching government, I don't like you. I'm sorry, Everything that government stands for is anti-free will person, And all the way back to the beginning of the colonies, it was never free. The only people that were free were the American Indians, which are technically, I guess you would call, indigenous population. They were free until we subjugated them. Or our government subjugated them, however you want to look at that. But the English people, the English-speaking people, have never had freedom on this continent. That's weird. I'm hearing it whistling. But yeah, they have never been free. Ever. And all you got to do is look through the American history to see it. But, you know, up till we declared independence and a group of people then decided that what everybody else was going to do, called the Continental Congress. Before that, we had a king and we had colonial governors doing it with the will of the British military. After that, we had the Continental Congress with the enforcement arm of the Continental Army. And of course, in the Constitution, which came a decade after, you know, we drove the British out, they said that basically the Constitution is written for the federal government. But they wrote the amendments. Think about the word amendment. They amended it to fix the mistake they'd made, and gave rights to the people. Now, what's funny is you can't give a right to somebody. Either they have these rights or they don't. You can't endow someone with a right. They already have a natural right from God to protect themselves and to freely speak when they want to, and you know, and to not have your things rummaged through without your consent, and you know, things like that is, you know, it's amazing to me that the government seems to believe that they can tell you whether or not you can protect yourself, whether or not you can speak. Really? I mean, that to me is pretty extreme. You know, and not long ago I was reading an article on a website that was talking about a poor lady in, I think it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, if I remember the city right. It was one of those states, either Oklahoma or Arkansas or somewhere right in there. And she had grown her basically a victory garden because she'd been laid off and she was trying to have something to eat. So she grew a bunch of plants and followed the rules of the city, even though it was her own private property she grew these plants on. The city decided they didn't like the fact that she was being self-sufficient, so this one over and tore all her plants out of the yard, left her with nothing, destroyed her way of surviving, took it away from her because they want her dependent on the government. It's the only reason I can come up with. Why else would you do that? You know, pulled her trees up. Really? Because she had fruit trees. They're nut-bearing trees, and you know, and she had she grew a victory garden in her yard. What she done? She utilized the property she had to benefit her, so that she could have a way to eat and survive. And they destroyed it. Just said, no, you can't do that. Why is it this group of people gets to do that? Why can't you defend yourself against those people? Why do they get a monopoly over who gets to say what and who gets to do what just because they want it? Where's the right? There's not any. And I don't agree with it. So I've went off on another tangent and ranted for a while. But if you've got any comments about the presidential election or the school, I'd really like to hear some comments about the school tax, because that's just straight wrong, okay? But, you know, as soon as I can get some good video content, I'll be back with another one. It'll be another day or two, but I'll show you something else soon. Y'all have a good one, and keep your powder dry. This is Dave with the Liberty Guys, and I'll be signing off.